In the spirit of every man, in the heart of every woman, in the soul of every culture, lies a story that must be told. The making of Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. In the year 2000, the year of the dragon, Columbia Pictures and Good Machine present an ancient legend brought to life. The highly anticipated Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Based on the beloved novel by Wang Dulu. With a spectacular cast and a world-renowned director. This is sure to be one of the biggest motion picture events of the year. Visionary director Ang Lee returns to China for his first Mandarin language film since Eat, Drink, Man, Woman.
Martial art films has always been one of the main entertainment in Chinese society. So I grew up with it. You know, I got fantasies about it and the things I wanted to do, I wanted to try.
After a treacherous 5-month shoot at exotic locations throughout the mainland, including Beijing and the Gobi Desert, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is breaking barriers in the art of movie making.
I believe that he would take it to give it a new dimension. He will give it something that we have not seen or we have not been able to touch on.
Melodrama, comedy, martial art, explosion, pulp fiction, you name it.
This will be a movie event that no one will want to miss. An action film, epic adventure, with sizzling martial arts sequences, spectacular swordsmanship, and groundbreaking special effects. Starring the beautiful and talented Zhang Ziyi, Chang Chen, the young sensation sweeping all of Asia.
所以你在心里头还是个小男孩，在寻找那些流星。
我是一个男人了，而且我已经找到最亮的一颗星。
The incomparable Michelle Yeoh, star of over 20 films, including her breakthrough hit, Tomorrow Never Dies. And also starring the legendary Chow Yun-fat.
剑法也是续命，这把清明剑还是续命，一切都是人心的作用。
哼，别到了庙里就说和尚的话，出招！
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon also brings us famed fight choreographer Yen Wu-ping of the Academy Award-winning Matrix phenomenon.
He is a man which I admire since I was young, before I was even a film student. He's a man of invention who cared for the traditional classic Chinese fighting styles. In some ways, we're the same because we're filmmakers. What I know about martial art, I've done my studies and did a practice, and I had ideas, but once you put it on screen, it's something else. It's choreographing. It's like a dance number. It's pure cinema. No, it's beyond language. It's pure energy and what looks good for the screen.
Los trailers, visita mi canal.
I actually had a long debate about whether to use wire work or not. In other words, flying with Mr. Yuan Heping. I tend to think that's the great tradition of this fantasy martial art tradition, this genre. It has to. I have to face the Asian audience, which doesn't give second thought about it. They're just used to it. I've been fantasized about doing it. I think somehow defying gravity, it's so exhilarating. I have to do it.
Yung Mo-ping has been doing martial arts for maybe 30 years or more. He knows every trick in the trade.
We use thicker wires we'll remove in post, which will allow us to do more fascinating stuff.
With all of the complicated movements involved in creating the action sequences, experienced choreographer Yen Wu-ping was up for the challenge. In order to help Li realize his vision of gravity-defying acts, Ping put to work his team of specialists. A group of these experts, assigned to each actor, helps them to maneuver using a system consisting of wires, pulleys, and cranes. In this scene, Ping and his team orchestrate a complex sequence in which actor Michelle Yeoh runs up and down the side of a wall. They must first make sure that all of Yeoh's wires are properly fastened to her harness. When she is safely attached, Yeoh is sent into motion, hoisted up so she can run down the wall with seamless agility. Along with the coordination of Li's camera angles, this complicated scene becomes unbelievably magical, finally assembled in post-production.
You have 3 or 4 guys who is hoisting us up in the air and letting us down. So the timing of you and the 5 guys has to be so impeccable.
Biggest thing I learned from him is that martial art film has very little to do with martial arts. It's cinema, it's expression. It's my luck to work with him.
With such an ambitious undertaking, the filmmaker enlisted the support of the Academy Award-winning special effects team from The Matrix.
Working with Ang Lee was a real pleasure. He was very open to suggestions, but also was very clear on what he wanted.
Using computer-aided pre-visualization in planning how live elements should be shot, Rob and the team were instrumental in making the impossible possible.
This was an ideal situation for us. We were involved at a pre-production stage, so we got involved with the storyboarding side of things, the pre-visualization, and then we also went out and supervised many of the major special effects out in China.
Like a jigsaw puzzle, they were able to combine live elements from various takes and setups to seamlessly create one exciting sequence.
There was, for example, the moon pool shot. It was originally going to be more of a wire removal of the two characters chasing one another across this lake, but it soon became apparent that the physical limitations meant that it was not going to be achieved in camera. What we had to do then was take plates of each of the two characters, select certain sections that were working, and we then had to do digital transitions over the sections that weren't working. But to get the feeling of that flying was certainly a new look for us.
Even with extensive planning, changes had to be made on the fly, as in the electrifying forest battle scene.
We had put together the pre-visualization, we were getting a better idea of the shot, but even when we were out there shooting it, we were still not 100% sure of the best route to get the final shot. We were very confident with the sections where they came through the trees and danced across the lake, but it was the top section through the trees that we were not sure whether we would have to go back and reshoot some green screen at a later stage. As it turned out, the production set aside a day to shoot the characters just coming through another part of the forest. We could isolate those and slot those in. It was a creative process, the pre-visualization, not only to understand Ang Lee's view of the shot, but also to help us to figure out how to do it.
When the shot didn't look right, Rob and his team used computer-generated elements.
This is an example of enhancing traditional techniques of filming everything in camera. It involves a disc throw. This is the initial plate as filmed with her tossing the disc. You can see how the disc doesn't exactly have an impetus of doom. It's flying up flat to his head. So we then paint out the disc after the throw. We composite in a CG disc that flies towards his forehead, and this is the finished shot.
Many of the special effects shots had to be built from scratch, as in the creation of Old Beijing.
When we were out in China, we shot various angles from roofs of old parts of Beijing. We shot a 1/15 scale miniature. There's actually a tourist attraction out in Beijing. We then pasted those digitally and put together a map painting, and then had to add in movement to give life and animation. We did that on two main map paintings, a daytime shot of Beijing and a nighttime.
Along with the technical challenges, there were also physical challenges to deal with.
Some of the locations that you see that are so unbelievably beautiful required a fair amount of traveling and hiking to get to, particularly in the Guangshan Mountains, where there's sheer vertical slopes climb up. The whole film crew got to the top of this. It's quite extraordinary. It was worth the journey.
With Rob and his team set for a long post-production schedule, Columbia Pictures started an ambitious marketing campaign with the first of 2 movie trailers.
Y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
Although a lot of the film involves martial artistry and visual effects, director Lee also put great emphasis on the emotional storytelling aspect.
I like to deal with human relationship and circumstances, time changings, and social obligation versus free will.
For me, what has really worked is the way Ang tells the story when he's explaining to you which direction he is going. And there have been certain insights to a martial arts world that we have not been able to capture before.
The wuxia world, the hero's world, has the psychological gray areas which I get attracted to. It's a world of its own. It's a fantasy world of people who knows martial art, not only like a great skill, but was able to elevate their spirit to enlightenment.
In previous martial arts films that I've done, we've always put loyalty, honor, tradition, and martial arts ahead of everything else. But now he deals with emotions like fear, death, which is something that we have touched on, but we have not really truly explored in that way.
It's a very interesting, fascinating, externalized kind of world. When people can fly, anything could happen. Maybe there's a chance you cut through it and drive into the emotional core more easily.
This role is definitely very challenging, this whole movie. First with the language, because we are speaking in Mandarin, which is definitely not my first language. Ang is very meticulous. He wants you to say it how it should be said.
Physically, they have to be a fighter and an actor. And while filming, they have to do both jobs.
Having to remember the martial arts movements as you are speaking and remember the role that you are playing. So suddenly your mind is overcrowded.
In the martial arts scenes, you want to keep a balance between the exhibition of great action and development in plot and character. The biggest problem with that is it could be dangerous because they won't be focused on just the physical side of it. They have to act.
我记得我第一次就拍第一个打的镜头的时候，我的牙齿都在打抖，真的很紧张，然后慢慢适应吧，我觉得。
One thing about Ang, he knows what he wants, and if you don't hit his mark or his moment, you will have to do it again. Then you as an actor is assured that when he says it's a good take, that check the gate, you know, then you can sit back and go, I must have given him what he needs.
They scare me a little bit to put people in your fantasy and have their risk their lives and on wires and doing lips, and sometimes I feel bad about it.
I think this is all in all like a learning experience for each of us. We've got an incredible crew. It's quite a sort of a chop suey in the Chinese way of saying, you know, Taiwanese, Hong Kong, China, and America, all coming together in this one movie. It's taking and giving to each other. And it's a very happy camp.
West is learning the East is learning the West. Now it becomes a one world now. The Hollywood people are learning from us, and later on with learning from all the knowledge, the technology from Hollywood. We are not talking about the East and West. It's kind of a family now.
Somehow I think everybody wants this to be realized as an incredible dream, that we all sort of put ourselves together and work towards the same goal.
I found it's kind of ridiculous, like a bunch of adults were doing this. It's so much fun.
No major motion picture is complete without a beautiful music score to complement the story. And Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon enlisted the help of the best. Famed Chinese composer Tan Dun, whose contemporary orchestral works have made him a world-renowned artist, scored the music for the film. In addition, the incomparable cellist Yo-Yo Ma gives Tan Dun's notes a voice. From the melodic love themes to the explosive action sequences, the score embodies the passion and the power of the story. As a final crowning touch on the film, the producers brought in international singing sensation Coco Lee to sing the end title song, A Love Before Time. Working many hours in the studio, Coco Lee recorded the hit song in both Mandarin and English to fully capture the essence and to broaden the reach of the film's emotional journey.
Back to your side, the North Star.
y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
Before time, the stories that we've made. Yeah, one shining light will still remain.
One composer, one instrumentalist, one voice, one film. The finished product is a stunning collaboration of musical talent and ability. They all come together to add another layer of artistry that is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. All of these creative elements, all of the months of production and post-production, all come down to one definitive question. How will the audience respond? If the reaction at the 2000 Cannes Film Festival is any indication, then the answer is clear. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is destined to be a huge hit with audiences worldwide.
In the past, some of the period films that I've done, you know, it's like Tai Chi Master or Wing Chun. The focus was more on the action rather than all these stories, the emotional side, the self-sacrificing, you know, all those very in-depth feelings that is so apparent in these kind of myths. But here in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Ang has brought out the very lyrical, the very romantic, and at the same time the very powerful martial arts that it needs to have. When Ang approached me to do Crouching Tiger, there was no doubt in my mind this was the movie that I had to do. I think, you know, you get to a stage in your life where you have to be very honest with yourself. Why are you doing certain things? You know, James Bond was the perfect opportunity for me to be introduced in a major way, especially to the American and the European audiences, you know. Having a legacy like that and then having a role that was so strong was incredible for me as an actress and for my career. But working with Ang, my management, Terence Chang, my agents at UTA understood because everybody knows Ang's work. No one was doubtful for 1 second that he would not be able to bring me to another level as an actress. And for me, that was the most important thing.
我跟慕白都不是胆怯的人，也许事情并不是您想的那样。
I had to explore really the emotional levels to be able to cope with this character. For example, like the final death scene. It wasn't something, because it was shot, I think, over a period of 3 days. It wasn't something that you could feel superficially, because after one shot, you know, it's very difficult to recreate that same thing. Or is it about method acting? But at the end of the day, it was working with Ang and knowing how to get it feeling from your guts, how to have it coming out and taking it all back in, but knowing that sense of loss from within. So in that way, yes, I've explored all the different sort of emotional ups and downs, and then being injured in this movie probably also gave me that added boost into feeling the pain and that sense of loss. And prior to this, I was thinking of going behind the scenes as well. So when I approached this movie, I knew I wasn't just going to be the actress in this movie. I was going to watch very carefully how Ang worked and how production was done. When we approach each project, I have to be very decisive and digital about it. Is what am I getting? I'm putting in, you know, for Crouching Tiger now, almost 2 years of my life. And this has to be very, very meaningful to me. What am I going to learn from this particular film? What am I going to be getting emotionally? And or else, you know, what is it going to do to my career? And I think it's done immense things for me personally as a human being. And then now when the movie is coming out and I've seen what I can do, I think it's improved
It's put me on a level where people are taking me much more seriously as an actress rather than just an action actress. And that for me is very precious.
这个道歉人很不寻常，应该不会这么傻的。
When Ang approached me to do Sense and Sensibility with martial arts, I knew this wasn't just going to be another martial arts film where, you know, the testosterone takes over everything else. When I first read the script, it was a great conflict because this character, Yu Xiulian, is very much different from what I am. Being a modern woman, I really don't know very much about the women of the Qing dynasty, what they get up to, you know, why they think like that, why are they so repressed. I'm much more outgoing personality, I'm very direct, I confront issues, and the way I talk, I'm very animated. And suddenly there is this character who is very noble and has got such an incredible inner strength, so gracious, so self-sacrificing, and then, you know, to have the love of a life, never being able to tell her how much he really feels for her. I mean, if I ever met someone like that, I'd probably, you know, shake his teeth out and say, just get on with it. So dealing with that to start off with, and then, you know, understanding that period of time, these two characters, what was the background, and this character that I play is so multi-dimensional. And so subtle, yet at the same time her inner strength is so powerful that working together with Ang, that was how we created this person. Because I had absolute confidence in Ang Lee. I knew that when there was no acting in this movie. The minute you acted, the minute you didn't give him what was coming from here, he would basically ask you to repeat and do it again until you got it, until you felt it. He's dedicated. He has a vision. He knows what he wants. In his mind, this is a dream that he wants to bring to reality. And I think that's the most important thing. You need that for a director to have that. Because when he walks into that scene, when he's looking at his monitor, he wants certain performances from us. He sees the complete picture. So for me to walk into this film, I basically just let him take the lead. Because I think, especially for Chow and my character, if what you see in the film you do not feel, you will not be able to understand, because there's nothing explained in that way. So I did not hold back. I was never aware of, you know, where the camera was or what the lighting was or what it was. It was just knowing what I was supposed to be doing in that particular scene. So for me, he's the most perfect director.
什么事？
一些心里放不下的事。
And Chow is such an incredible actor. He's very giving, and that was very necessary. You know, I couldn't look at him longingly if he wasn't giving it back to me. And it became very powerful in that sense, that connection. Because, you know, as we went along in the film, you could see what was held very, very deep inside was slowly sort of coming out and just slowly, subtly bubbling over until the final sequence. Because once we got into our costume, once we walked onto the set, as you know, the biggest problem we both have is with the dialogue, with the language, especially for me, because I don't read Chinese and I know Mandarin, just, you know, conversation, you know, what I want to eat, where I want to go, and that's it. And then suddenly to be confronted with this very beautiful language, but very specific, because there are only 4 intonations in the way of speaking. You cannot convey how you feel by changing the intonation. When you change the intonation, you change the meaning of the word. So that was just sheer hard work, memorizing all the lines and hoping that Ang is not going to change it, you know, as we went along. When we walked in, it was knowing this character so well that the minute we started the scene, we were them, basically. So it was a pleasure working with someone like Chow Yun-fat. We're trying very hard to persuade Ang to do the prequel to it, because he has told us, you know, the story between Li Mubai and Yu Xiulian is actually very, very intricate. And Chow and I, you know, after this film, we had such a wonderful time together doing this. I would really love to work with both of them together again. I've had some major injuries doing this. Unfortunately, it comes with the game. There is always that higher risk because you do action films. For example, in this film, in the first fighting sequence, unfortunately, I hurt my knee and I needed ACL reconstruction, knee surgery. Accidents happen. It wasn't a difficult stunt. It was one of those, and possibly accidents always happen when it's the easier things, when, you know, it's things that you've taken for granted. I've done that jumping kick, you know, possibly 50, 60 times a day. And for me, you don't even have to think about it. But then when you're working in different conditions, maybe the ground wasn't even enough, there was a stone in the way. You know, when I was fighting with my stuntman, you know, our legs should touched and shouldn't have. So there are things that it's just unexpected. And it was one of those things. It was an accident. But I was back on the set 3-4 weeks later, and I went into the final action sequence too. If it comes to a day when I think, you know, I can't take this anymore, then I will retire from action films. At the present moment, I love it. It's like, for example, my own first production for Mythical Films with Media Asia is The Touch, and it's an action adventure. It's very easy for people to say to me and say, oh, haven't you had enough of doing action films? Wouldn't you like to just do dramatic roles and things like that? I'd like to have the balance of doing both, but I would not want to choose and say it's either or. I honestly have a lot of fun doing it. I get to do things that are physically impossible to do in reality. But once I'm in the films, once I'm on my set and I'm working with my stunt coordinator and my stunt team, I get to do all this like amazing feats. You know, I can walk up walls, around walls, do somersaults, you know, fly out the buildings, run on rooftops. It's like, why not? In maybe 15 years, 20 years, I would say, yes, now I know why. Why not? No, I would stop right then. Is probably shortened 5 years of his life doing this movie. We had an incredible crew, you know, Peter Pao with the amazing cinematic value that he brought to the film, and then Yuen Wo-ping and his stunt team with the stunt coordinations, and then all these people who are working 15, 16 hours a day in the worst possible conditions, you know, in the Gobi Desert where it was like over 100 degrees, and then when we finished in Beijing it was minus 13 degrees. We really wanted this film to work. I think what it is this genre of films is something that we know so well. You know, if you were to go to Asia, you see it on TV, you see these swordsmen and women, these warriors. We've grown up with these myths and legends and fairy tales to us. And now what we want to do is we want to share it with the rest of the world. I think when you see what we've grown up with, you understand our culture a little bit more. And that is a way of communication. And I think it's very vital, you know, for people to have that deeper understanding about, you know, why we are different, why do we sometimes think differently. What Ang Lee's done with this genre of films is paid them the highest respect that's due to it. He has found almost a perfect balance with the drama and the martial arts.
Because this is an accompaniment to the film. And so, of course, Ang Lee has spent a year filming just at impossibly difficult conditions in the western part of China.
was finishing around Christmas, but only gave him 1 month or 2 months to cut the whole movie. And by February, he gave me rough cuts. He said 2 weeks later, we're recording in Shanghai. I almost killed myself because it's very short, very short time.
Tan's amazing. You give a lot of leeway but for some reason, we sort of get each other.
And Yo-Yo's haunting, sort of a romantic love voice is the thing as a banding everything together. All this kind of thing seems like it's very, very not related, but somehow because of the haunting cello voices, find it linked all the things together.
It is kind of a bridge. I can relate to this world and to that world, and I think that does form some form of a sound bridge.
Y tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
I hope they're working out the theater, humming Yo-Yo's melodies and transposed all the images of the story into cello and into percussive beats and meanwhile into their own life.